Good evening. Thank you for coming.
You're welcome. Oh, sorry.
Don't interrupt me. I'm on a roll. Select Board will meet in Robinson Hall Dining Room at 6 p.m. The meeting is open to the public, all that good stuff. Agenda items. I've got 3. First of all, and nobody, including Bob Allen, picked this up, but the minutes of the May 12th Select Board meeting bullet got dropped. And I did the minutes, so anyway, I did the agenda, so I don't know what I did, but something. I want to add, after the elementary school update, an A1 Rural School Community Alliance, RSCA presentation. And G, the LEMP, the Local Emergency Management Plan, we will drop because that is not complete yet, ready for presentation.
Okay.
So, with that said, the minutes of the May 12th Select Board meeting, first up. Oh, excuse me, has anybody else got any changes they want to present?
No.
No, thank you.
Good. All right, minutes of the Select Board meeting, May 12th.
I'll make a move to accept them as written.
Second?
All those in favor? Treasurer's report.
Revenue for May was $3,279.43. Expenditures were $81,060.66. And the balance as of the end of May was $929,771.32. Delinquent taxes owed to the town is $33,501.88.
Any questions on the Treasurer's report for May of 2025?
Did you receive any additional tax payments this month, Callista? Any additional tax payments
Yeah, they
this
come
month?
in regularly. I have people that make payments
Great.
regularly. The one that is so old there that we talked about before, they have talked to Tracy, and she suggests that I send the delinquent notices to the 2 sisters that are still alive, which I have, and I've had no response yet, which kind of surprises me. I expected that COVID will come in.
So did she offer you any suggestions of when we could sell that land legally?
No, it would have to go through probate, and they would have to be notified anyway. So if they come back and say they're not interested in it, but it would cost the town, she said, anywhere between $3,000 and $5,000 to do that through probate, and it's minimal that's owed on it.
It would just open the property up for somebody to buy if they wanted to.
It would, and we could recoup the town cost, I believe, because we did, on the other one that we took, with the advertising and everything, we recouped all that cost from the sale price. You can't sell it for a profit, though.
Well,
That's you sell it for what's owed on it only.
right. but
Which parcel is this again, Callista?
The one up on Matthews Drive.
Okay.
Right in the.
Yep,
the-
right at, yep,
Yep,
right at the
right
beginning
at
of
the
it.
corner.
Yep.
Yep,
Okay.
yep. So that's the only update I have on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Move to
Alright.
accept the treasurer's report as written?
I'll second that one.
I guess we're all in favor. We'll move on. Action items, elementary school update. Who is here to give us that update?
I think Kristen is online.
Yes, I'm here. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
Nice to see you all. I appreciate Lisa inviting me to kind of fill people in on some of the things that are going on with our school and also with the district. I'm doing this sort of with Anna not being able to provide the update herself. So I also understand there are some other people, I think both present in person and then also remote, who could certainly augment a lot of or complement some of the things that I'm saying. So I want to allow other people to speak up as well. I wanted to just give a brief update of some things that have been going on in the last 4 to 5 weeks. There have been some pretty significant changes and things that may affect the sustainability of our neighborhood school. That, given how central it is to our town and the vibrant sustainable aspects of it, I want to make sure that people are aware of. One is specific to Reading Elementary School, and the other is more district and statewide. So I'll first sort of reference some of the things that are going on with Reading Elementary School. This fall, actually starting this summer, but the school board is they take a short recess. So really in the fall, we'll mark a formal period of campus sustainability review. So the policy of our school board is that when any neighborhood school fails to meet enrollment and financial thresholds that are designated by policy for 3 consecutive years, that neighborhood school is automatically up for a formal sustainability review by the school district as a whole. And certainly Anna can give us more details about what that means. But concurrent to that, we have recently, unfortunately, our principal has resigned. So we're without a leader at this moment anyway, moving into the fall. What will happen next in this regard is that in the fall, probably, and throughout next school year, there'll be community participation will be requested. There'll be notifications, things like that will go out and publicized to try to get community members involved. And I think it sounds like it's with the hope of really thinking about this as an opportunity for constructive ways that we could build sustainability and and investigate some of those things that have become more challenging for the school, and work together as a community to address them and as a school district. Attending board meetings is something that, when I think about some of these topics and get overwhelmed myself, I try to think of what are some action steps. Some, that we can all do are attending school board meetings and certainly attending those public forums when they come up, and surveys and so forth. Another really important action step that I believe is on your agenda today, which is wonderful timing, is to fill the currently open position for the Reading School Board representative that was vacated by Adam Amelie earlier this year as his term ended. So Anna's been valiantly doing that alone for the last couple of months. And I think as things have been heating up, it's been even more important that we have another person who's passionate to join her and support her in kind of managing these changes. So really, really excited about the appointment that's happening in the select board meeting later. The other important update is around sort of the state legislation that's going on, and this may be something that people are well aware of, but in case that's not the case, there is state legislation that's been going back and forth to review and being rewritten, called H454, and this is something that's likely to be voted on at the end of this week or certainly early next week. And it has very significant implications for our district as a whole, and really the state. A lot of very specific reform. Again, details, I can only get into so many of them because this isn't really my area of expertise, but I can certainly try to answer questions, and with the help of all of my other amazing colleagues that are on the call. But the most, I think, significant implications for us is that there are limitations on class size, district size, geographical areas for districting, um, very significant implications for taxes. There's a lot of changes that may sort of throw into question our sustainability as a district as a whole, but certainly as a school, and a lot of loss of local control over these decisions, which is something that, of course, is very central to us as Vermonters. So some things that we can all do, and I think people have been doing, are contacting legislators. Certainly, if anybody wants, there's plenty of letter templates and more information on this topic that any of us can certainly forward on to anybody who's interested. And I can put the PTO email in the chat so that you guys can shoot us a message if you want more of that information. There's also a virtual listening session coming up. That's this Wednesday from 6 to 7:30. This is the final of a series, and this is an attempt from the Agency of Education in the state to gather more information from the community about how people are feeling regarding these potential changes and options to try to get our opinions heard. And then the other, I think, important action step, which is also something I'm so excited that you guys are planning to discuss, is to consider joining the Rural School Community Alliance. I'm sort of copying or reiterating some of the things that I know Anna has sent to the select board members. But some key pieces are, this is a body, like an advocating body of school boards, town select boards, community leaders, individuals who have banded together. There's over 100 school districts, including our own, and several select boards, as I mentioned, including Barnard, who have joined this Rural School Community Alliance. And it's really just an attempt to continue to give voice to our communities, our families, our students, our educators who are not really being as heard, I think, as people would like them to be at the state level at this moment. There's no cost to join. It's really just sort of a demonstration that our select board stands in solidarity with our school district, and with the rest of the communities that are part of this alliance in protecting rural schools across the state, and especially our school in Reading and our school district. Those are the main things that I wanted to kind of give you an update on. As I said, I think there's sort of been a confluence of factors happening over the last 4 or 5 weeks that's brought all of these things to the forefront, and just want to make sure that as the the foundation of the leaders in our town, that you are aware of what's going on, so that if there's anything of those action steps or any other additional things that you feel like you're able to do or want to do, and certainly to give broader information to the community, that we could do that at this time. Thank you.
Kristen, a quick question for you. At the beginning, you said that if any of the schools fail to meet certain thresholds, then they're automatically up for review. What are the thresholds?
Yeah, so this is an internal policy by the school district. It was written after the last consolidation period, when there was some campus consolidation in Reading. 5th and 6th graders were moved up into Woodstock, initially to the elementary school and then to Prosper Valley. And I think at that time, as we were all all of the surrounding towns were kind of formalized into the district, there was this policy written really by a lot of our smaller community towns. Our representative at the time was key in helping to craft this, as was Barnard and some of our smaller communities. And the three The purpose was to slow things down and to get a lot of community input, to use this as an opportunity to kind of reflect and see if there are things that are more challenging about any campus's sustainability, that they want to sort of bring that to the forefront and engage the community so that they can try to remediate it. It's not in the past, there wasn't a policy, so it was just like a quick, they would look to vote to close. So the three metrics that are established by the policy, one is enrollment numbers for the school. Another one is the per pupil cost, which of course is connected to those enrollment numbers. And then the last one is performance on standardized assessments. And I think, again, Anna would speak really eloquently to this if she were here, but Reading is unique in that it has far fewer students because it also has fewer grades as compared to the other community schools. It's the only school that only goes up to grade 4. So, and that narrows the number of years that you can have standardized assessment data. And it also means that for a very small population, you start to skew those data results. So I think there's recognition at the SU level that is not necessarily a fair or equitable factor, but is one that they were considering in the context of the other two. So those three metrics have to be met, and if those all three are failed to be met for 3 consecutive years, then it sort of starts this aspect of the policy where now we're in a formal review period.
So are we meeting all of those except for the enrollment numbers?
My understanding is that we are failing to meet all 3 of those at this time.
Okay. And you said 3 years. How many years are we at now with that clock? Do you know?
So this last year was our 3rd year.
Okay.
And that means then that this next year is the formal review period.
Got it. Thank you.
Sarah?
Yeah.
Sarah Kovalensky, and I'd like to add to that. I actually have pulled up what the actual policies are. There's some really fine details in all of this, and they're really complex because they're framed out for either K through 6 schools or K through 3 schools. We're a K through 4 school. So there are no specific numbers as it applies to us per se. It's not clear how they're interpreting that.
Right.
The other thing is that there are issues around pre-K, which are our 3 and 4-year-olds. So pre-K is a program that is run through the Agency of Human Services, Department for Children and Families Child Development Division, not through the Agency of Education, has different standards and requirements. But we do have that program. And then there are different policies within, because they're a school choice, families can choose to have their pre-K children go elsewhere. In some of this formula that we're not meeting, there are components about the pre-K part. And again, it doesn't totally fit our situation. So there's a lot to be looked at in this year of review. And then for every child you do or do not have, that dramatically, with these small numbers, affects the per pupil cost, which is the number that's being looked at. And we're looking at per pupil costs that can range in this district between $19,000 and $25,000, with the average being around 23. And if we had 25, we're bringing the number up to 23. Just dropping ours a little bit could be really dramatic, and by adding 2 kids to this school, we could, in theory, solve both the enrollment and the finance problem. In terms of the evaluation, because the numbers, they only test at 1 grade level, because the numbers in every one of our grades are so small, they have not identified to us what the grade level is or what the testing results are in order to meet the federal guidelines of confidentiality in education. So there's a lot that's complex in this about this evaluation process. So it will be important to be thinking about not only where we stand in relation to the policies, but whether the policies themselves are focused on the right issues for the community.
How long does the school district have to conduct this review?
I am not clear about that one. I know it starts this fall.
There's nothing in, sorry, Ann Kovalensky Sanderson, there's nothing in this policy that mentions that. The gist that we've gotten from Sherry Sousa is that she doesn't want to jump and close the school. She would rather boost our numbers, I think. She suggested that we get rid of school choice, where we're sending Reading kids to Woodstock. So the ones that are already there would maybe be grandfathered in, but from just our kind of knowledge of who's in the town and who has kids that are going to Woodstock that live in Reading, right now that's 10 kids. So there's not, it doesn't seem to be an interest in closing the school. It's figuring out how we can sustainably keep our school in the future.
Can I ask you guys a question regarding the testing results? Sarah, were you saying that for the past 3 years, the district hasn't revealed what grades are being tested and what those scores are, or did I misunderstand that?
That was the way I understood it when I asked the question.
Okay.
You know, about do we have some vulnerability in our curriculum? Is there some area that we need to, you know, is it reading, is it math? You know, what is it that we should be addressing? And we were told that wasn't information that we could get directly, you know, we couldn't get the answer around where the failure had been because of that reason I told you about the small n.
We could target we would figure out which kid is the issue that's bringing the average.
Gotcha. Because of course with a small class size,
Yeah.
one child that's having difficulty brings everybody's, yeah.
And so we don't know the grade level because the grade levels are so small.
I understand, okay. That reasoning makes sense a bit.
And I think, as Sarah mentioned, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I think as Sarah mentioned, again, there's, I believe, I'm not sure about this, but I believe that the third and fourth graders are the only ones that are taking the standardized tests. So unless it's something, a different measure than that again narrows our number of students dramatically. So, and I think we've seen this over many, many years when we talk about, kind of performance at Reading. When you're talking about such a small sample, again, you could have, a very significant range of performance and outliers, and it would skew that data significantly, which it sounds like from Anna's perspective, there is an understanding of that. But yeah, it would be nice to know a little bit more specifically, without identifying information or specific scores, what those metrics, like what those specific scores are that they're looking at. And my assumption is that that's something that we could request more information on.
Quickly, Sarah. Quickly.
I would just add that actually there is standardized testing done from kindergarten on up, but the ones that are most commonly looked at for evaluations like this are the third and fourth graders. But we do have standardized testing starting at kindergarten.
It's actually pre-K.
Or pre-K.
Yeah.
I just wanted, if I might comment on one other thing that Kristen said. Kristen is the president of the PTO, has done an incredible job of keeping parents pulled together. The other thing is at the state level, we have no information for our community about what the tax implications would be of the things that are being considered, never mind the educational implications. And the legislature has not been forthcoming at all on anybody's version of legislative changes about what that's going to mean. And so it really, until they can put the proper amount of time in it and not rush things, I think that none of us should be happy with accepting what they're talking about.
Thank you, Sarah.
It's an important subject, obviously, and there'll be more to come, I'm sure, as we get closer to the school year and into the school year. So just keep us updated to some extent. All right. Anything else from you?
No.
Good to go? All right, we'll move on segues from this one, I guess. Rural School Community Alliance. And Anna, Gina, who's going to speak to this?
Well, I'll speak to it because Anna's here in spirit. She couldn't make it tonight because she's parenting. She's at a very important sports event with her son. And so I'm delighted to pinch hit. And it happens to be my first week anniversary as the new board member for Reading. So I'm excited to meet you guys, and I'm excited to attend the PTO meeting on Wednesday. I'm going to have to be learning really fast, but I'm honored, terrifically honored, looking forward to helping out any way I can. Now, the reason I'm here tonight, though, and Anna's right here in spirit, is because Anna and I strongly concur with the remarks made earlier that Reading would do very, very well to formally sign on to this group known as the Vermont Rural School Community Alliance. Because specifically it exists and it's gaining a head of steam to amplify the voices of small towns and school districts and small schools. It's there to protect the rural communities across Vermont. And the numbers that we had to present, how many towns, how many select boards that were quite nicely presented earlier, those actually are conservative because those numbers were presented in February. And now we're in June. They have continued to gather a head of steam. And it's partly because of what was just said here right now, quote unquote, none of us should be happy. And that is absolutely true of this H454 bill, which I could compare with permission and to grabbing a cat by its tail and rubbing its fur the wrong way for months and months and months. And what it does is it alienates groups from across the state. It's telling Woodstock and communities that want to invest more money that they've got to cut their budgets by $6 million, and it's telling towns that want to spend less money, they got to spend more money, with no details on what the outcomes of those actions would possibly be. They're talking about lumping 111 school districts serving 85,000 students into 5. And those districts are taking no account of geographical differences and requirements and distances, whether they live in mountains. They're not taking account of what kind of effect on infrastructure those differences have, or how much traveling students would do regardless of their ages. It's just mindless. And just to tell you a little bit more, just to paint a couple of more pictures, they're basically threatening by consolidating these 5 districts. It's like putting a straitjacket, an ill-fitting straitjacket on 5 groups of the population. They're threatening the existence of not only small town schools that are the heartbeat of the community and the hubs of their communities, but they're threatening the entire existence of supervisory unions that have the potential to give us solutions for the future. There was a Harvard group that appeared at the board, the Mountain View Supervisory Union Board, in early May, I think it was, and this is a couple of weeks before I was appointed. And those Harvard graduate students talked really compellingly about the power of hub schools with satellites to provide options for students outside of elementary school, just as by way of comparison, Heartland is providing in terms of trade opportunities, for example. This bill would potentially rupture those opportunities, make them impossible, while it's slicing away the voices of communities like these, where we wouldn't have any voice anymore because it would all belong to the agency of education. And so another really irritating thing about this whole situation is that attacking our small schools and hobbling our rural communities whose personalities are their schools in many cases isn't even an effective procedure to fix our problems, because the problems are actually associated with rapidly escalating healthcare costs, rapidly escalating insurance costs, a shortage of housing, and deciding to close RES is not going to fix that. In fact, it's going to hurt small towns in the future by causing small families moving to Vermont to pick the towns where there are schools, not towns where there aren't. So it's a really vicious circle. And to back that up, I brought you handouts today that show exactly what the state is thinking and what our district is thinking. One of them is put out by the Rural School Community Alliance itself, called Why Rural Schools Hurt Vermont. And it addresses these other causes of problems beyond the fact that we don't have the right enrollment numbers. How about we have healthcare costs that are driving things to the roof? And so the other handout is one that was just done this past week by our parts of our communications group in the supervisory union board, that shows what will happen if this bill is taken up. I mean, it's draconian. It'll affect home values. It'll affect the successor decline of businesses. It'll drive higher property taxes. You can read all of this. And one other attachment that I did bring are formats for writing your congresspeople when you stop to think about what's happening with this legislation. So we get to the point that I'm here to advocate for. I think Reading should join the Rural School Community Alliance, but first I should explain to you who they are. I mean, not everybody may know who they are, but they are a coalition, as was reported on earlier, of educators, parents, community, select board members, school board members, that was born in January, just in January, after the Scott administration put out on January 22nd its present proposal for education reform. And in the months that it's been in action, it's become so effective that 7 days, in an article called The Learning Lobby on April the 30th, wrote, and I quote, "A new advocacy group formed to channel energy into grassroots organizing power for communities like ours is gaining traction in the State House." And so basically, it's amplifying our town's voice, if our town's willing to contribute its voice.
So Gina, can I ask, just to make sure we're clear, when you say Reading, you're recommending Reading join the RCA, what does that actually mean?
I'm gonna answer that question
Okay.
at the end. As a matter of fact, I was gonna thank you for your thoughtful questions. You had 3. You said, how are we supposed to, what is our association now, basically? What does joining mean,
Yep.
and what's the ask?
Yep.
And I'm gonna answer all 3
Okay.
questions. But just for the meeting today, I just wanted to go over this handout for you. I'm not gonna read everything, but you're gonna find an explanation about why the RCA formed. And I've listed what its concerns are in their own platform itself, because you're gonna see they'll match a lot of the concerns that we just mentioned, if not all of them. It's a very systematic group. It's been very, very well thought out of. And it's willing to work towards needed school reform, but it insists that anything that the legislature does respects the realities of our rural areas and our small schools. The guiding principles for the RCI, I thought this might be good for you guys too. And by the way, for those on the video, I can actually get those out to you, and I'll bring these attachments to the PTO on Wednesday. But you're gonna see that they believe strongly that elementary school children should be educated closer to home, and that middle school students are more apt to be able to take a longer bus ride for reasons that they can develop their opportunities to a greater extent, just because they're more mature about moving around. They are recommending that closing schools is not necessarily the fix for Vermont's problems and could create damaging new ones, as we discussed. That school government should be a partnership between districts and states. The districts shouldn't be sort of euthanized with no vote to affect themselves in the future. That funding reform should center on equity and fairness, and that has to do a lot with things like how much funding would go to private schools versus other schools, where the choice would become actually an adverse situation for schools, the system as it exists today. So you can take a look at this, but their guiding principles and the recommendations that go along with them tend to support ideas that are strongly in line with Reading's goals. How is Reading presently represented? The Mountain View Supervisory Union joined in February, and Reading, with 2 representatives technically, is associated. But there is no direct correlation or voice or activity directly from Reading to the Alliance. By joining, which is free, there is no ask. You just sign up, and all of a sudden, you've got a lobby that you can contribute to. You can literally contribute to how that lobby's working, the ideas, the concerns, and it's from Reading's point of view, Reading's needs, Reading's concerns. Nobody's going to express better than Reading what's good for Reading. So we should be in there because we could benefit from what they're doing on the floor in Montpelier. And I think the other question you had, Bob, is what would this mean to Reading? And so what I did, Anna and I working together came up with a number of bullets that would flesh out how Reading could benefit right away. It would put Reading support publicly and directly behind this organization, and our efforts to preserve and grow our rural schools, community values, systems, and infrastructure. It would provide an unfiltered conduit, because right now, just being part of the district, we as board members, we go with what the board votes. As concerned citizens interested in our education system, we can act directly for Reading without any sort of other association. So it's a lack of inhibition as far as the expression of our needs is concerned. And so it amplifies and strengthens our town's voice, protects our small town schools from closure, supports the demand, the demand for due process, which actually is threatened right now because one part of the bill that was put up in March, on March the 28th, actually said that the agency of education could actually control the decision to control schools. Well, right now, there's due process under the law that prevents that from happening. We would have a right to argue in court to keep our school open. And this organization supports keeping that due process in place. It argues for the continuation of local school boards that best amplify the voice of the community, for the supervisory unions that offer future solutions under the configurations that they adopt, strengthens our local schools, protects our property values, places downward pressure on taxes, continues attracting young families to Reading, prevents school closure, and assists on the preservation of the democratic process. That's what that group is doing. For free, we can get its support. I can't see a downside not to join this organization.
Can I? So, sure. To your points, I think the ones that are important to all of us are protect our property values, put some downward pressure on your property taxes, continue attracting young families to Reading, and preventing our school from being closed. Those are the things that we want them to advocate for us. Is that?
And I guess what I was trying to drive at before, Gina, was when you say Reading join this, who specifically are you talking about wanting to join? Or seems like you and Anna, as our school board reps, are the right people to be doing this. Is that what you're talking about?
No, I think from a standpoint of public perception, okay, this select board should join. This select board should vote tonight to join the RSCA. And the PTO should vote to join the RSCA. Different groups are reflected. When you look at how they break out the organizations that make the organizations that make the alliance up, they're itemizing which select boards, which towns, which districts. So Anna and I strongly believe that when we look at their membership in the aggregate, it should include, starting tonight, the Reading Select Board and the town of Reading.
Okay, that's where I was gonna go with that. Basically, if the select board joins, we're basically joining the town.
And that's what we're asking.
Yeah, it's not just the 3 members sitting here.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
But it would take a vote of,
Do we have to have a representative on behalf of the town to,
everybody in this room can be a representative.
so there wouldn't be a specific committee for this, or just?
You could create one though, and I would encourage that. And I think Anna and I would be more than delighted to help do that if we could, any way we could. Because it's just gaining too much steam in Montpelier. You don't want to have Montpelier dictating what happens to our school. You want to have us dictating what happens to our school. So if we have a lobby like that and our voices are part of the engine, we're in a much better situation. There's almost, I can't see a reason not to do it.
Gina, this alliance, I'm a little confused. This alliance are there directors that meet periodically? Are there certain members from each group that joins that would be called to meet periodically? How do they come up with a platform that they're gonna send to the legislature that this is from this entire alliance?
What I did was and so did Anna, we looked at their website, and they have a governing body that meets on a regular basis, but more granular than that, I haven't been able to figure it out. And what joining it would do is give us the option of finding out more. There are contacts there, and we would be in contact with them as we join them. So I can't answer everything about the group because we haven't joined it yet. And so I think once we do, if we can, Anna and I'll do our best to come up with more granular information for you as to exactly how it works. Because I think there are committees and there are action groups. The website doesn't get that detailed.
I would hope so, because I would hate to join a group that's really got their nucleus of individuals already that are making the decisions being presented to Montpelier with no input from, say, Reading and West Windsor and Woodstock, and, I mean, that's like a legislature.
But
They
that's
started this thing, and they didn't ask us. That, you know, I don't know where it started, and I'm not blaming any of our representatives by any way, shape, or manner. But I'm just saying, you got 100 and some odd people up there saying H454 is the way we should go, when in fact, it isn't, based on what I've heard tonight.
Right.
So I'd hate to join another alliance that's got a group of people that said this is the way we should go without input from a majority of the entire membership.
And, go ahead.
Bob, could I make a comment? I've been listening to everything that you're saying, and I'm all for towns having their own schools. I think it's very important. I went to a hometown school when I lived in Connecticut, and it was wonderful because it was small classes, and I'm not the smartest guy in a classroom. I need small classes so I get all the attention, more attention. But something else I wanted to add. I read something last week that did a survey across the entire United States, out of all 50 states. What states are within the top 10 best educated in this country? Vermont is in the top 10 at number 4. They're only behind Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and I can't remember which the other one is. But number 4 out of 50 states, so we're doing something right. And it's not by consolidating and busing people to different places. That doesn't solve anything. You know, that's like the segregation movement of moving everybody all over the place. You know, I'm not for that. I'm for we should have our own community schools. And then Vermont, looking at how much does Vermont spend per student in this state. It's over $20,000 per student, including rural schools and everything. So putting it that we bust the kids over here and there, it screws up our communities and everything else. And yeah, it takes value away from our town. You know, schools are important to stay in a town.
I don't think we need to or want to debate 454 here, and I don't believe anybody's in favor of it that's representing our town. I think the decision to us here right now is this joining of this rural school, what do you call it?
School Community Alliance.
Right. So, Gene, I just need to be really clear what you're asking for. When you talk about the select board joining, I want to know what that means. I think Bob started to get to it. Are you talking about us being members on something? Or are you talking about us designating, forming a committee, something like that, that would represent the select board in the town? I want to be clear what you're asking.
There are a number of steps. The first step has to be that, not has to be, but we are passionately requesting that the select board and the town vote that the town of Reading is part of this alliance. And then I want to answer Bob's question, because I didn't quite get that finished, because you said, okay, what do we do? How do we, what does it mean? I can't answer the question until we join, but then once we join, Anna and I in this town can participate to push the envelope just as we would like it. if it ever were to turn out, we couldn't get input, there's nothing wrong with getting out. But the point is, you can't get the benefits if you don't put your foot in. And the interesting part about this is, we've waited from the time they formed till now is June. They've been building a head of steam. They're covered in major journals across the state as being effective against this whole falderall going on in Montpelier. And so what I'm just suggesting is, could we get a vote to join our town and then investigate further how we could advance our interests through this alliance? But we have to be part of it to answer the question.
And you, as a Reading School Board member, can't just join?
I could as an individual, but we're already associated as the board. I could do it as an individual, but what does that say to the rest of the state? I'd like our legislatures to see that the town of Reading is part of the Rural School Community Alliance.
Can I make a comment there?
Sure.
I think it sounds to me like what you're asking is, our town and Barnard are both within this district with very small schools. And what they're asking, it appears, is that we're putting our backing behind the Reading Elementary School as a town entity of the select board.
Yes.
It just seems as simple as that. Woodstock Elementary School is quite a large school.
Yeah.
They don't really need this sort of movement, group, whatever, to advocate for them. But we do, Barnard does. And, while I don't feel that I could join another committee to, be a representative from the select board to do that, but I would be interested in knowing what's going on with it. So I assume that's what you're asking us, is just to put our backs behind the Reading Elementary School and say that we are behind you guys and we're advocating for it.
Absolutely. And then there could be additional benefits, almost certainly, by participation. Because concerns from Reading could translate into movements by the Alliance in Montpelier, because we're a number of towns challenged by similar issues.
Yeah, I don't debate, I don't argue the benefits of this organization. I'm just trying to get to the specifics. Are you talking about you going to the meeting? Are you talking about Lisa going to these meetings? All three of us going to these meetings?
No, I think you could designate people, or people could actually, once Reading has a position on this, is a member, there's nobody asking anybody to do anything. It's an opportunity for us to benefit.
Well, somebody is going to have to be the point person.
Or else it's just or else it's just a membership in name.
Yeah, okay.
But that's not bad, because you're saying, at the very least, you're saying, I back my school, I back my community, and I'm letting my legislators know this. It's a painless way of saying you support your elementary school. But what Anna and I are saying is, we're willing to do more. We're willing to actually take the engine that is the Alliance and make something more happen for Reading, because we're aggregated somehow.
Excellent. Anne or Sarah?
So I'm on their website. 97 towns have joined, and it does mention select boards, but it also does not have details, as she's mentioned. I just put in a contact with my information asking, what does it mean for a select board to, because it has a thing that says ask away, ask what questions you have about this alliance. So I've now put out my questions saying, what does it mean for a select board to join? Does there need to be representation with a town voice how are we heard? What does it mean to be part of this as a select board? So I'll let you know if I hear anything back.
Excellent.
Thank you.
And it appears the town of Barnard is?
Yeah, Woodstock, Killington, they are both in our, and Bridgewater, all three of which are in our supervisory union, are already members.
It actually lists Reading as well.
It does, yeah, that's was curious. I just noticed.
I don't know, but that's.
Oh, that might be
part of
because
the-
it's part of the supervisory
board,
union, yeah, okay.
The 97 includes individual towns and supervisory unions, so the towns within the supervisory unions appear to be named. But again, there are no specifics.
And they list select boards, there are about 5 or 6 that are listed
That's right.
as of February.
I see the Barnard is on there.
Yeah,
From their.
yeah, as of February, so it's building.
It's your pleasure.
I will make a motion that Reading join the, make sure I read it correctly, Rural School Community Alliance.
I'll second that.
Okay. Guess we're unanimous.
Gee, that's terrific. I can't believe you're gonna have.
We didn't vote on the motion.
I didn't vote on the motion? Well, you seconded it, and I agree, so all those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you,
Very,
Gina.
very much.
And Gina, I would also like to thank you for joining the school board. It's excellent to have another representative. Anna's been doing a wonderful job, but many hands, light work, so thank you.
Oh, I am honored. Thanks for having me, and
Definitely think we have the right person.
thanks very much for the time and consideration, and thank you guys all too. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Off you go.
Reading Wastewater Committee, who's gonna speak? Tyler?
Hey, yes, we met last month. We have a pretty good little committee made here. We have 3 members from Phelpsville, 3 from outside the village. Sarah Gavel-to-gavel volunteered as secretary, I'm the chair, and Lisa Morrison is the vice chair. Our collective expertise includes hydrology, GIS and mapping, marketing, economics, funding, community engagement, and ties to the Reading Community Trust. Our committee is focused on outreach, education, and further data collection about the possibility of a municipal wastewater system. The wastewater system feasibility is confirmed throughout, we got that feasibility study, but the public support remains uncertain. Our initial tasks, to name a few, were basically everybody got a task assigned to them. Use AI to kind of summarize that giant report down into something that is something that we can read. To create and collect data for a map that we're going to make to see if we can use that to analyze who and where people are interested in this. To consult other town reps like Jerry Marletta or John Malcolm. They were involved with the EC Fiber, committee. I don't know the term for that, but just to name a few. And our next meeting is scheduled for Monday, June 16th at 7 p.m. in person or on Zoom.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tyler.
Any questions of the wastewater committee at this time? Probably a little early, but thank
Here or on Zoom.
thank you, Tyler.
You're welcome.
It was a very engaged group and a lot of brain power, so I'm very excited. Thanks, guys.
All right. Planning Commission work projects. Eve, are you still on?
I think Eve had to leave early, so I've been designated.
Thanks, Stacy.
Yeah. Jane is here, so she can back up anything I say. So I guess the gist of it, you received the email from Eve with, bullet points. Some of them are still in the state's hands. I think it's the consensus in our group that we're not looking for busy work just to make up new ordinances and whatnot. We do have 2 issues that were part of the bylaw update that we finished in January, where you wanted some changes. One had to do a screening, I believe, and the other one was the number of occupants in a dwelling. Those are things we can revisit in our next, and lump them together in sort of one warning and public discussion. So we're not having to go back to the drawing board over and over again. Are there any concerns that you three have that you've heard from the community, that you personally have, that you would like us to address?
Do you want me to? So the list that you guys sent to us via email from Eve was wastewater committee, so we're set on that. Usage and preservation of class 4 roads was something that was suggested by the planning commission. Storage in Felchville yards, as in unused vehicles and that sort of thing. Vacant buildings, short-term rentals. Is there any, looking at a registration or something of such? The energy section of the town plan, when you guys are waiting for some further instructions from Mark, I understand. And then climate change or flooding provisions and bylaws regarding that. And they're also waiting for updates from the state on that. So any of those? I can think of a couple.
Basically, this list came out, and have you folks had any discussion, preliminary discussion on a prioritize of these items, or did you just throw it out?
No, I think we finished the update, the bylaw update in January, and our meetings went from 2+ hours to 30 minutes, which has been great. But we're a committee, we would like to benefit the community, and I think we're reaching out to identify what some of the concerns you may have, some of the concerns the residents may have, that we can help, and if there's something not on this list that you feel we can help you with, take some of the load off, we'd be happy to discuss that too. But we haven't prioritized anything. I think we were basically looking for areas of concern that we could begin discussion on. Some of these points are out of our control. They're in the state's hands or Mark's hands. There's just nothing we can do about it right yet. It'd be spinning wheels.
Just as a comment on one of them, Stacy, the unused vehicles, there is state statute on that, and there are some rules and regulations about what you can and cannot do relative to asking a landowner to remove them or whatever. There is some, what do I call it? Fencing requirements depending on the number and the location. But that might be something you'd want to look at before you go too far down the road, because the state is pretty specific. If the cars happen to be registered, you can't do anything about them. But anyway, you might want to look at that before you spend a lot of time on that issue.
And I believe that specific point was put on the list due to a concern from someone in the community.
Yeah. Yeah, we've had
addressing specific properties.
Yeah,
without
we've
naming
had
those
those
specific properties.
unused vehicles come up before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think years and years, 25 years ago, I was one of those complaints, but I backed away from it.
I was gonna say, were people complaining about you, Stacey?
No.
Yeah.
Any of the, do you?
I mean, nothing particular in this list as far as that I'd like them to focus on.
No, I think we got a wastewater committee. I don't know that you'd want to spend a lot of time at the town planning commission level on that, other than working with them maybe, or something along that line, or getting information from them.
Mm-hmm.
Class 4 roads, I guess the consideration of an updated ordinance may be in order, but I'll just speak for myself because the three of us haven't had this discussion. I'm very concerned that we ever give up a town right away. It can be downgraded to a trail or something like that, but once you give up that right away, you've lost it forever, and who knows what is going to come down the pike in the next 5, 10, or 50 years. There are a couple of dead-end roads that go to one house, that ought to be a driveway, maybe, rather than a town right-of-way. But, so there's some room for discussion there, I think, relative to the entire highway ordinance.
And I believe that point also was a result of a couple of emails to our chairs discussing or having concerns about erosion of
Mhm.
class 4 roads, use of class 4 roads.
Right.
Some people complaining about, certain uses. And you addressed this at one of our meetings when you were there. It's a big subject.
Right.
And I don't think any of us want to start a bunch of wildfires in our community. And this is one of those issues that could really stir up a lot of.
Yeah, I think looking at it from a control point of view, you give up the right-of-way, then that takes it out of hikers, bike riders, bicycle riders, horseback riders. It takes it out of everybody's hands and puts it back into the hands of the landowner, who might say to you, "I'll never close it." Well, maybe, but they could. That's would be my point.
I don't think there's any reason not to look at what other towns may be doing regarding that subject, though. So from my point of view, I would like to see a little bit more of what other towns do to mitigate those problems. We certainly don't want one group of recreators preventing other groups of recreators from using some of these roads.
My point exactly.
Yes.
Liz, Bob, I'm the one who wrote those emails.
I know.
I have on my iPad, which I'm gonna pass around, for everybody to look at, what Rich Trail looks like now. Now, last year I wrote an email to Bob. Bob wrote me back and he said, "I have the right to close the road, but I have to notify the select board when I'm doing so." Because of all the rain that we have had, I had sent an email to the select board, I think it was on May 11th, that I have closed Rich Trail. And I'm keeping it closed until all this rain goes away.
Well, that may take care of
Yes.
that.
10 years ago.
I want people to look at the pictures, because my father, who used to own the property before I bought it, he put a lot of money into restoring Rich Trail so that horseback riders could use it, people who walk could use it, people who hike could use it. But right now, no one wants to use it other than the people who drive these 4x4s and dig it up. The gullies are huge, and the water damage that is happening to my property, even clear next door, because the water is going in different places, is horrific. And per Bob last year, he said, "I'm authorizing you, because it's not the town's responsibility to maintain the road. I do it. I have a great big excavator. I take it up on it, and I put in some real big water bars. Those water bars did a really good job this year in making the water go where it was supposed to. But I still have a culvert to put in and over 600 feet of ditching to put in to move the water yet to where I would like it to go. But the issue is after the rains, I don't know what it is about the mentality of these people, that they have to get in their 4x4s or their motorcycles or whatever it is and drive up on the road and tear the hell out of it. So in the emails that I sent the license plate numbers of these people, and I confronted them. Karen said, "Don't confront them and they shoot you." So I confronted them, and one of the guys spoke out and he says, "We are adding value add to this." And I said, "How can this be considered value add? You are tearing up the roads, you're tearing up the environment, and who knows, you break an oil pan and all that oil goes into the water source too." Is that good for the environment? No. And so when you look, again, look at the pictures that I have here, is there's the vast trails that go all through Vermont. Why does the vast trail not go Rich Trail on our end? Well, it's because it empties out on Town Hill Road, and the guys who ride the sleds and things don't want to ride their sleds on dirt roads that have salt on them or anything, because it does damage to the undercarriage. That's why they go through Calvin Coolidge. That's why the little map tells them to go in that direction. It's only the 4x4s that go through and tear it up. I'm not saying that I want the town to take the right-of-way away. I'm not. What I'm asking is that the select board think about this, is that they can restrict who goes on that road. They can say it's horseback riders, people on bicycles, people who want to walk, but it's no ATVs or no motorized vehicles, period. Only in the winter can you run a motorized vehicle on it. Just the damage that's done.
Just for full disclosure, when Jeff contacted me last year, that wasn't a new permission that I gave him. We gave his father permission
remember.
years ago, so I don't want you to think that I
No, no.
ignored you guys.
No, no.
So,
I think it goes back to 2014, so
Right.
it's old.
so I'm just gonna pass my iPad around.
Yeah,
Or have.
we're gonna,
Okay, we're gonna keep going though.
People can look at it.
Just to, I've seen the damage on the property at Jeff's place.
Tyler's my point.
Yeah, no, I'm a consulting forester here in town, and if that road were 50 feet north, he would not be in compliance with current use. He would be kicked out of the program, he'd have to go back to paying full taxes on it. There's a loophole, I believe it's due to budget restrictions, but towns are exempt from the acceptable management practices for water quality in Vermont. And yeah, it's just ecologically, it's a nightmare up there. There's no good comes of it except from the people who are tearing it up. We don't have the soils that are appropriate for it. Ruts never get better unless they're fixed. The Grand Canyon started as a rut. so yeah, it's I support the closure, especially in wet conditions.
And to add to what Tyler has to say here, I also sent this to the select board. I want everybody to hear this. There's a lawsuit going on right now. It's been running for 3 years in Tunbridge by a landowner who happens to be an environmental attorney. And he is very upset with town. He's maintaining the road and everything else. He pays the taxes on it, and town doesn't do anything. But everybody has access to go through that road. And it has now, I believe, gone to the Vermont Supreme Court. If he wins the case,
Things could change.
it can change 500 miles of roads in the town, in towns all throughout Vermont on who controls that road and who can close that road. Again, I'm not advocating that the road get closed to everybody. I'm advocating that it get closed to motorized vehicles.
understood, so.
So with what Jeff said about his class 4 road, Rich Trail, right?
Yeah.
Maybe our committee can explore what possible limitations we can do legally and what other towns have done. And, and it's just exploring at this point, because you're ultimately going to make the decision, but we can get a kind of a broad overview of, look at this case with the
Actually, I already
Supreme.
did that.
You did, okay.
I looked into it, and any town has the right to restrict who goes on that road.
Well, we have a lot of dirt roads in
It's
our
a state
town, so.
statute.
Per use.
For use.
So you can say horseback
That's just
riding,
one.
you can say
Exactly.
hiking,
One
but
for
you
all,
can
for
say
one,
no.
right?
Okay, I
Drug
think,
traffic, no
I think we're
ATVs.
getting off topic here a little bit. We
So
started
anyhow,
out
it's something we. can
working
work
on your entire program, and we've kind of segued into roads, and
Yeah.
so I want to move it along. Tyler,
I'll just have one more thing
quickly.
real quickly. Is that, I believe in the Tunbridge case, they were talking about, that road was, designated an unmaintained road, and what does unmaintained mean, really? It was, people, if a tree fell across an unmaintained road, does anybody reserve the right to go cut the tree out of the right of way and to do that again? Is that the town's responsibility, is it the landowner's responsibility, or is it the public's responsibility? Or do we all have that option? So that's another thing to consider, is how the roads are, maintain, and what does unmaintained mean?
Excuse me, I want to move on. Jeff, I want to move on. Thank you. Robinson Hall, attic insulation, and Bill come up and said that they wanted to give an update on the 4 buildings in town. So, Bill, you are up.
We'll try to make that quick. Kevin Kai is here from the committee, Brian Cal is here from the Energy Committee, and we're very happy that today you see the big dumpster out on the side of the building. That's the start of the first phase of the project on Robinson Hall, which is state money through the MERC program. So it's not costing local taxpayers anything, and our first step is we're taking out the old installation. It's probably been up there at 50, well, Bob might know better than me, but it's been up, it looks like it's been for over 50 years. And
ladybugs.
What?
It's ladybugs,
Right,
right?
right, yeah, a few ladybugs up there. Once it comes out, we're gonna rewire the attic, which supplies electricity to the 2nd floor. And then, once we've selected a contractor to install the mini splits, then we're gonna run the conduit up there, and then new R60 cellulose insulation will go back in. And we're, probably the average residential building loses at least 25% of heat through its ceilings or roof. So this should greatly improve the efficiency and will give us a new system to both heat and cool the building. So the baseboard heat you see here now becomes a secondary backup heat in extreme situations. Food shelf, real quickly, we're doing a rewiring, an upgraded service from 100 to 200 amps because they got 11 refrigerators and freezers up there that are really push the limit of what the current electrical system can handle. There's nothing up there is to code. We're gonna bring everything to code. We're gonna go to 200 amp service, and then we're gonna install mini splits. They're very small mini splits. It's a small building. Electrical work might cost more than a mini split, but we're getting 2 bids from 2 different contractors that I've worked with in the past, and they all have to be approved by the select board. It's not up to me. I'm just gathering the bids. It's been a public solicitation process, and in a nutshell, I mean, we'll wait till Brian gives his report on the other 2 buildings, and then if you have any questions, we'll happily answer them.
The library, same issue and opportunity, which is to insulate up the attic and then get heat pumps for the library. Been talking to the library board trustees about this. We're at the stage now where I should be sending by close of business tomorrow a proposal for architectural services to help us make sure that whatever installation we do, the building can bear the weight of it, et cetera. It's totally doable. We just need to have drawn plans that everybody feels is okay to stand. So that should be coming your way hopefully tomorrow for signature. And then the and on the firehouse, the biggest thing in there actually is air handling. It's getting fresh air in. It's having a makeup air system for when the exhaust kicks on to vent all the carbon monoxide from the vehicles. It actually creates negative pressure in the building, and they can't get the doors open very easily. And so
when there's a fire, that's what
we can fix that pretty easily. And then there's an air water heat pump that's planned to not replace it again. We're not necessarily replacing all the time the fossil fuels, but we're going to render them almost never need to be used, basically. So we're switching over to heat pumps. So that'll be an air and water system. And if we still have money after that, we'll go for batteries so that we can basically use from the solar array that we have there, then we can actually store that energy so that it's available 24 hours a day, basically. So, which there's certain advantages economically for us to do that.
So just 2 other quick footnotes. One, these recommendations are not things that the Energy Committee just dreamed up. There was a state qualified engineering firm that was hired to do a level 2 evaluation of the buildings. We have to work off their recommendations, and we have to comply with the local procurement process here. And obviously we're doing things that we expect will reduce the cost to the town budget in the short term and in the long run. And then bear in mind that, we've sized the array to power all these buildings. So trying to get things in a much more sustainable, economic and environmental future for the town-owned buildings, of which 4 of the 6 are included in this process.
And so that was the last thing I just want to say. There's another, we had an RFP process that just closed last week. We had one proposal come back from that for engineering services to oversee the firehouse work, because it's more complicated than everything else. And so these were the 2 buildings that Bill and I really felt like were the ones where we want, that is the library on the architectural side, and then the engineering services for the firehouse, where we felt like it was beyond what we felt like we could manage and had the expertise to do. I've reviewed it. I want to review it again before I send it on to you, but I think it'll meet our needs, but I just want to feel good about that before I send it to you, but hopefully again by the end of it tomorrow or next day. So that's where we are.
Any questions?
Sounds great.
Thank you.
It's a lot of work. I don't know how Brian finds the time to fit in back to people in his house.
I haven't been up in the auditorium to see if there's a foothold down through the ceiling yet, but anyway.
But please, first thing I said to him was, do not fall through the ceiling, lay it on his desk, you won't get paid.
All right, thank you, fellas, and thanks for all the work you're doing to help us with the town buildings. All right, I have here the Woodstock Ambulance Service Agreement, and this is basically just to cover the Curtis Hollow, which the only access is through Bridgewater.
Can't get there from here, yep.
Well, that's right. Well, you can, but you gotta ride an ATV.
Around Jeff's excavator.
So basically, this is something we've had in effect for many, many years, back to when Woodstock covered the entire town.
Yep.
So it's pretty much boilerplate, and somewhere on here, I thought there was a price per pupil, or per person. It's only about 30 people anyway, so it's not a big deal. So we'll sign that. Yeah, $700 a year, thereabouts. So, okay, to move this along, we'll sign it.
Yes.
Appointment to the Green Space Committee. Got a letter that, from Susan. Sue's not here, is she? No. About appointing Karen Barr to the Park Committee, as she calls it. They've had 3 resignations recently. Annie, Lisa, and Heather have all resigned. They're down to a 3-member board, which would be Jen, Karen, and herself, assuming we appoint Karen Barr. So I don't see her on the...
No.
Okay. The other thing I discussed with her just in an email, I asked her about staggering terms, because they had them all coming out.
Rotating at the same
25.
time. Mm-hmm.
And she's, the comment I got back, she was meeting with Jen this weekend, probably stagger the terms, don't you think? ? And I just went back with a quick one, up to you. So I need a motion on Karen
make a
Barr if
motion.
we approve.
Motion to appoint Karen Barr to the Green Space Committee.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, highway status. I know Glenn's not on, at least I haven't seen him. Highway status, I put on here, as I said last month, the stone chimney mitigation work in the culverts and ditches was completed on May 27th. So that work is done. I'm still getting a reminder that I need to apply for an extension on that work, but I'm working with a lady, or Calista and I are working with a lady to get it figured out, why that keeps coming up. Other than that, they have been doing a lot of cleanup as time allowed up around the town garage, and certainly since the weekend they're on the roads. Minor washouts only. West Windsor, I think, was hit pretty hard. Heartland was hit pretty hard. Weathersfield down here at 106 again was, but kind of I guess, went around us. Springfield was hit really bad, so. They're back on the highways for the time being. The other thing is all the junk tires will be removed this week that are in that space up there. And there's gotta be 75 or 100 of them.
Wow.
I mean, there's a pile.
Where are they headed?
They are headed down to Alva Waste, who has a contract with somebody out of Massachusetts to take them for recycling. We got a flat rate of $1,000 for the dumpster full, rather than, well, those big grader and loader tires, they're now getting anywhere from $200 to $300 per tire to
To
dispose of.
them. Hmm.
The truck tires, of which we've got plenty, they're in the $40 to $60 range. So I think it's a pretty good deal.
What was that, $1,000 for all?
$1,000 for the dumpster plus a pick charge, probably $250 to $300. So that'll be done, that'll be cleaned up. And I haven't heard any more on a guy coming to grind the gravel for us. Other than that, I don't have anything to report.
Anything more on the town garage remodel?
Oh, you're pointing at me. But I have nothing. I have nothing to report on that because I have not had any conversations with the highway crew regarding any sort of plans that they have.
And I have nothing to report on that either because they haven't told me anything, so.
Okay. Maybe it'll just.
Didn't mean to throw you
appear.
under the bus.
I know, you totally did.
Any other business before we go to executive session?
Anybody out there?
We are, in other words, we're meeting tomorrow morning with the state on the 106 bridge, correct?
Yeah, well, we'll be there to hear.
We'll be
what
there
they've
to
got
hear what they have to say.
What they have to say. It's more for the abutters, I believe, than it is for us at this point in time. That's 10 o'clock.
Is that a public meeting?
What's that?
Is that a public meeting?
It's a state engineer coming in to talk about the right-of-way aspects of the bridge with the abutters, which is the Art Foundation and Jackie and David McKay. Well, the town of Reading's in there because we've got a right-of-way down through there. That's why we were invited for a street. As far as a public meeting, Bill, I don't think anybody would tell you to go away if you came down or anything like that, but
I might.
You might.
What time
Thank
is
you,
it?
Bob.
What time is it?
10:30.
10:30.
10:30?
It's noon for you.
Yeah, I'll be here at 8:30.
Any other? If not, I'll
I
entertain
have a
it.
couple of others.
Oh, okay.
I knew you'd be excited to hear these. Two short others. First off, I want to thank all of the people who went up to work on Bartley Field when we had the field work day. There was a ton of work. It looks great. Anybody that wants to go up and take a peek at it. And the second thing is, I really was proud of our town last Thursday for the village meetup with the Village Trust Initiative. It was great to see so many people here looking around the town, and we had a lot of really interesting information, I thought, that I think will be beneficial to us as a small community. And our town rocked it that day, so thanks. It was great. Lisa.
I have a question about that, because I tried to register and it was sold out.
Oh.
Is there,
You could have just showed up.
I know.
Aw.
But is there gonna be any, like,
Information afterwards.
information minutes or whatever, like, follow-up?
Jack, do you think that they,
I think there'll be a review on the Preservation Trust of Vermont website.
okay.
Oh, well, we're having a Futures Reading meeting on the 21st, so we will probably go over everything that happened that day.
So the subject matter was, it was the town panel kind of talking up Reading, and then there was a symposium on affordable housing, and listening to what other towns in the area have done to sort of work around the big issue that we all have. And then the third talk was about different towns and projects that they've done and the start to finish, you know, how they got the financing, how they got the help, and, you know, what they're doing with that, with those things now. So, it was interesting.
And we have a new slogan for the town. Everybody loves Reading. It's
You're
true.
right.
They all loved it.
Pretty much everybody loves Trooper. That's what we learned.
Yes.
Yes.
They were
He's the promoted chief marketing officer.
Yes, totally.
There was disappointment that Zeus was not.
Zeus wasn't out.
Yeah. A lot of people came to look for Zeus.
Yeah.
10:30 is correct.
10:30. Oh, okay, good.
10:30 is
Ooh,
correct.
Thought I was losing it.
And that's the real time.
That is the.
I'll be here at 8:30, like I said.
I got an 8:30 meeting. You want to take over that one for me? All right, if there's no other, we'll recess this meeting and go
Thank you,
into
everyone.
executive session.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everybody.
folks.
Thank you, Gina.